here on earth. It never gets better but worse. It feels like the end of the world to me. It feels like the end of the world. Are we getting what we deserve? So take it for what it is worth. 'Cause it feels like the end of the world. It feels like the end of the world. So take it for what. It never gets better but worse. It feels like the end of the world to me. It feels like the end of the world. Are we getting what we deserve? So take it for what it is worth. 'Cause it feels like the end of the world. It feels like the end of the world. And what happened to peace here on earth? It never gets better but worse. It feels like the end of the world to me. It feels like the end of the world. And are we getting what we deserve? So take it for what it is worth. 'Cause it feels like the end of the world. It feels like the end of the world. And what happened to peace here on earth? It never gets better but worse. It feels like the end of the world to me. It feels like the end of the world. And are we getting what we deserve? So take it for what it is worth. 'Cause it feels like the end of the world to me. It feels like the end of the world to me.
Wow, that timed perfectly. That was awesome. Will you guys stand up and worship with us? Here we go, let's sing. We believe in the one true God. We believe in Father, Spirit, Son. We believe that good has won, and all of the people of God sing along. Amen. Amen. We are free. We are free. He died and lived again. We will be a people free from sin. We'll be free, the kingdom with no end. And all of the people of God sing along. Amen. Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us our daily bread and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who have trespassed against us. Lord, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory forever. We're singing, Amen. You guys can have a seat.
Good morning. Welcome to Mifflin County Community Church, or MC3 for short. And welcome to a disappointing start to another Penn State football season. Yes. All you had to do is stop short of the goal, you know? Drew, what are you teaching them over there? Oh, hey, if you're online joining us, welcome to you as well. Listen, if anybody here needs anything this morning, please seek out one of our high team members in the bright orange shirts back there. Yep, you're modeling it well. If you're at home and you need anything, give us a call. We'll send one of them right over, I promise. Hey, just so you know, we'll wrap up right around 11:15 this morning. My name is Justin, one of the elders. Just a few quick announcements to share. Hey, as most of you have heard over the past month, we have begun our P3, which is pandemic-proof preparation for the winter at MC3. Just a few highlights, just real quickly, because we've heard this before, most of us. Hey, new entrance, ignition registration day 1. Lobby seating with video feed. If at home, live stream continues. You out there. See link on screen. Offering buckets will be walked around or give online. See link on screen. Want to know more? Go to our website. See the link. There you go. That was quick. Daylight savings time ends next Saturday night. Do not forget to set your clocks back 1 hour. That gives you the chance to reclaim that extra hour of sleep that you've been missing since last spring. Although, hey, who really wants an extra hour of 2020, you know? Next Sunday, November 1st, is MC3 Eats. That's a chance for the entire MC3 body to come together around a potluck meal. We do this after the worship experience on the Sundays where the clock changes. So once in the spring, once in the fall. We've made some minor COVID-related adjustments for the menu. One of those things is that lunch will be served in individual wrapped bags, little sandwich bags, you know? We've also added another other column to the sandwiches on the sign-up sheet. That's because of what Kara said last week. Also, we need sides, we need desserts. And like we said, MC3 is providing the sandwich bags ahead of time. They're out there on the table. I saw them when I came in. Plasticware, plates, napkins will also be provided. The sign-up sheet for food and drinks, as well as those sandwich bags, are on the table in the lobby. So check that out because, hey, it's next week. Last thing, we have another MC3 baptism scheduled for Sunday, November 22nd. That's crazy. Next week is November. Baptism is simply the Bible's way to publicly declare that you have chosen to be a Christ follower. So if you are interested in being baptized on November 22nd, please see Sean as soon as possible. Have a great morning of worship.
Okay, so here we are at the very last week of the end. So we're at the end of the End series, and we've been doing this thing all month called the End Game, where those of us who are closer to the end than some of the rest of you, we wanted to see how much those of you that aren't as close to the end as we are know about us-ish. So without further ado, if you are in student prime age, 6th through 12th grade, if you wouldn't mind coming up front, grabbing a piece of paper and grabbing a pen, and we will see how much you know. We've been doing this all month long, and the answers, the results have been pathetic. Pathetic. So if you want to grab a piece of paper, a pen, and spread out, maybe just check that your pen writes here real quick. And you can, if you want to spread out a little bit, you can do that. Okay, so are we set? We good? We good? Okay, so the first one, there is no visual clue, so we'll just stay on that logo. But here's the question for you. Pay attention. If your pumpkins were smashed, your melon was blind, and your pearls were in a jam, what were you listening to? No cheating. If your pumpkins were smashed, your melon was blind, and your pearls were in a jam, what were you listening to? Okay, moving on. So in the mid-90s, what club could you find, and there's a picture there, what club could you find Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, and Ryan Gosling? What club would you find them in the mid-90s? Still writing answers here. All right, got to move on. Okay, so what were you doing if you heard these sounds? What were you doing if you heard those sounds? All right. Another question for you. What was happening here? What was happening there? All right, for those playing at home, I hope you're following along. Okay, final question. In what one place could you find Danny Ocean from the Ocean's movies, River Song from Doctor Who, and Goose from Top Gun, among others? What one place could you find all of them? Danny Ocean, River Song, and Goose. Okay, if you're still writing, you probably don't have the right answer. Okay, so let's, you guys all have your answers down? You got them all right? How confident are you? I'm just wondering, like, you feeling pretty good? One. Okay, you're confident in the one that you got. So, okay, here is the first one. If your the audience, you can answer this. If your pumpkins were smashed, your melon was blind, and your pearls were in a jam, what were you listening to? Grunge, alternative, grunge rock, specifically as a genre, grunge rock. And I'd play a song for you, but I really couldn't find one that's just, sorry. So that's grunge rock, big back in the 90s. It actually started in Seattle, and apparently grunge is officially dead now, I read somewhere. It was on the internet, so it must be true. Okay, so don't go to the next, but don't go to the picture until we get answers from the audience. Okay, so in the mid-90s, what club could you find Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, and Ryan Gosling? Audience? Mickey Mouse Club. They were all in the Mickey Mouse Club. So there on the upper right side there's Justin Timberlake, and there's Britney on the front row. Right beneath Britney Spears and Justin is Christina. On the bottom left there is Ryan Gosling. So yes, that's where they were in the 90s. Yeah, okay. So of course, I guess there is a picture in a second. But if those sounds that you heard, what were you doing if you heard those sounds? AOL Instant Messenger, right? Instant Messenger, AIM for short. Those were the sounds. That was the way people communicated, like when they had their internet dialed up, unless they lost their connection. So yeah, instant messenger. And then the next thing, what was happening in this picture? Next picture, show me. Yeah, there we go. What's this? The Berlin Wall. Yes, that is tearing down the Berlin Wall. It was kind of a little thing. So if you don't know what that is, look it up. And I'm sure there is something online that'll tell you a little bit about that little thing. Okay, and then finally, again, don't show the picture here. And what one place could you find Danny Ocean from Oceans, River Song from Doctor Who, Goose from Top Gun, among others? Where could you find them? ER, yes. They were all cast members on ER. There's the lady that plays River Song. What's her name? Alex Kingston on the left. Yeah, George Clooney in the front there row, and right behind him is Goose. Who's Goose? What's his name? Anthony Edwards. There we go. I knew you were back there somewhere. Anthony Edwards. Yeah, a bunch of other people got their start there. So how many of you had 5 right? How many of you had 4 right? 3 right? 3 right. All right. 2 right? Okay, and then 1 right? How many of you got none right? Okay, all right, well, we know where to work. Well, thank you guys for playing the end game, and you can have a seat, and we will continue to worship this morning. Give it up for our wonderful students that have helped us all month long to show us how much they don't know.
And you can stand and worship with us. Let's sing. My weakness is hidden within your glory. Jesus, my strength is in you. The odds are against me, but you are for me. Jesus, my strength is in you. Power belongs to the one who was and is to come. Power belongs to our God. Hallelujah. My steps have been ordered. You go before me. God, I'm depending on you. The hope of my future, found in you only. God, I'm belongs to the one who was and is to come. Power belongs to our God. Hallelujah. I see your face in every sunrise. The colors of the morning are inside your eyes. The world awakens in the light of the day. I look up to the sky and say, you're beautiful. You're beautiful. I see your power in the moonlit night, where planets are in motion and galaxies are bright. We are amazed in the light of the stars. It's all proclaiming who you are. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. I see you there hanging on a tree. You bled and then you died and then you rose again for me. Now you are sitting on your heavenly throne. Soon we will be coming home. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. Sing it out when we arrive at eternity's shore, where death is just a memory and tears are no more. We'll enter in as the wedding bells ring. Your bride will come together and we'll sing, you're beautiful. You're beautiful. I see your face. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. I see your face. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. I see your face. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. Jesus, you are so beautiful. You've revealed yourself in the nature around us. God, we have no excuse. We are surrounded by the most beautiful creation. This year has been awful, but this fall has been gorgeous. I see your majesty on the hills, in the trees. Even as the leaves die, they become more beautiful. And it's all for your glory. The heavens are telling the glory of God. The stars are displaying your majesty, and it's all for you. God, you gave us voices. We can sing, we can harmonize. You gave us hands to build these instruments, to play these instruments. And it's beautiful, God. It's all for you. The people that we encounter every day, every good thing that we do, God, we lay it at your feet. It's all for you. And God, one day when we can be together, really together for the first time, without all of the blindness that sin causes, without all the chips that we carry around on all of our shoulders, without the sadness, without any more tears, without pain, without sickness, without death. God, we will worship you, because all of it from the beginning of time, every sunrise, every sunset, every star that burns billions of miles away, God, they're all for you. We give you our humble, tiny little act of worship this morning. We pray that you will use it for your glory, for your kingdom. It's in Jesus' name. The offering buckets are going to come around. You worship him with me. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Holy, holy is he. Sing a new song to him who sits on heaven's mercy seat. Sing that again with me. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Holy, holy is he. Sing a new song to him who sits on heaven's mercy seat. Sing holy. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. Clothed in rainbows of living color, flashes of lightning, rolls of thunder. Blessed wonder, with awestruck wonder, at the mention of your name. Filled with wonder, with awestruck wonder, at the mention of your name. Jesus, your name is power, present living water, such a marvelous victory. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. Yeah, with all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. We adore you, Jesus. Jesus, it's all for you. You guys can have a seat. Kids, you can go to ignition.
Oh, hi. Glad you can join me while I'm, getting gas here. I kind of hate getting gas actually because it's out of my way. I have like this 1 mile trip from my house to the building, and there's kind of a gas station on the way, but it's out of my way, so I kind of have to go out, make a decision to go get it. And of course, it costs money. Like this thing, it uses way more gas than our little minivan does. But I'm doing it because this coming weekend, or this coming up, I've got a trip. We're going to be going out for Kendra's birthday, and so I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a long journey, and I don't want to run out of gas on the way, so I'm making this happen now. And so I'm doing all the different things. I'm going through the work for it because I want to enjoy that trip, and I'm looking forward to it. I would hate to run out of gas in the middle of it, and so that's what getting gas. I mean, you do this yourself. You're going to go somewhere, so you fill up your vehicle so that you can go on the journey. And this is something related to what we're going to be talking about this morning. And that's that, a lot of times we get frustrated, we get worn out, we get tired going through the hard things right now. But I want to remind you that we have an amazing journey in front of us, an amazing hope. And so that's what we're going to talk about here today for the point. And so let me finish up with this, and then I'll pop into the building here in just a second. Sorry, guys, my truck is really fast, and it's way brighter. It's weird on the south end of town than it is here. But yeah, right. When you get ready to go for a journey, when you go on a journey, you fill your tank, and if you don't, you run out of gas. And can you back me down a little bit? If you don't fill your tank, you run out of gas, and then you look like that poor schlub that pulls up to the toll booth off of the turnpike. And they're like, that'll be $15.72. And you say, thanks. And then you say, I just ran out of gas. And they're like, what? Are you serious? Haha. Like, no, seriously, I just ran out of gas. Wait, it started. Okay, quick, go to that gas station. And I made it. But anyway, whoever that random story was about. But anyway, because you prepare, because you're like, okay, there is something coming up. And I want to do the hard things now. And honestly, it's so stupid. Here we are, first world problems, right? Like, it bothers me that I have to drive a half a mile to go to a gas station out of my way, where I just go to a place and I stick a card in a machine and it gives me gas right there. And yet it's something you do because you know that there's something better coming up. And actually, we went for Kendra's birthday on Friday. We went out to Selinsgrove and did some shopping, and we were really looking forward to it. It was a lot of fun. And so even going through that annoying time then was worth it because of what was coming up. And the point, as we wrap up this The End series, not this, we did this last month, but as we wrap up The End, the point that I want you to get is this, and that is that we can anticipate the end because God has won. We have something to look forward to, and we've been talking through this timeline over the last 4 weeks, and we've been looking at some pretty ugly, pretty rough things. But now we're finally talking about the end of the end. And it's something to look forward to. We talked about the first week, we don't want to obsess over this and get all caught up in the head knowledge. And the second week, we talked about we don't need to worry or fear because God's got this in his hand. And last week, we talked about the flip side. We don't want to ignore this because there's people that need Jesus. And I want to kind of wrap this up with this excitement going, you know what? Life is hard right now. And I don't mean because of COVID. I don't mean because of elections. I mean just life. Like, I worked yesterday. I did some stuff outside of the house. And I got up this morning and spent most of my morning going, and I don't have a breathing problem. Not right now. But it was just because life is pain, princess. And if anyone is telling you otherwise, anyone tells you otherwise, they're selling something. Your Highness, sorry, not princess. Because, that's life. Life isn't perfect. Life is sin cursed. Life is sin tainted. And all the things that we deal with that are not wonderful and amazing are because of sin, because of that curse. And we're going to get to that as we go on. But I want us to understand that even as how awful as it is now, we have something amazing to look forward to, where we can sing, holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty, where we can worship the King of Kings with no more tears, no more sadness, where we can celebrate what is true life, when it is life found in Jesus in eternity. So what we're going to do, you can just hang out right there, and I want to just catch us up, okay? This has taken a lot of words over the last few weeks, and so I'm just going to use some more. So here we are right now. If you haven't been here, you can listen to all this online, by the way, at mc3church.org. Click on Listen to the Point or mc3church.org/theend, and you can catch up on that. And actually, the live streams, for those of you watching at home, and for those of you that are not, they're also posted there, so you can watch this in action. And then you can just mute me, which is exciting, So church, this is where we are right now. We're in the church. This is the era, and the church is, I should be very clear about this because I thought maybe I was a little confusing last week. This is not the church. This is an old musty garage. And I can just guarantee that it is an old musty garage. You smell it when you walk in. When I go home every day from working in this building, Kendra says, you smell like the garage. I'm like, come on. Like I lit like 4 candles. I like put on 6 deodorants. I was like a buffet of smell. And I still smell like the garage because it's an old musty garage. But the church is those that have chosen to follow Jesus, you people. And as a matter of fact, can I see you people? Why don't you hit the house lights there so I can see you? The people that have chosen to follow Jesus, you are the church. So here is the church. And at some moment, we don't know when that moment is going to happen. Jesus is going to come from heaven and we are going to be raptured. If we are dead, we will be rising into new bodies. If we are alive, we will be changed into heavenly bodies. We will meet Jesus in the air and go with Jesus. And then during that time, there will be a seat we call the Bema Seat of Judgment, where people that are followers of Jesus, those that are raptured, will be rewarded for the things that they have done for following Jesus. They are not being punished for their sin. That is different. We'll come to that a little bit later today. But they'll be rewarded for the things they did in serving Jesus. Then begins a 7-year era called a tribulation. And tribulation is trouble. It's a bad thing. It's a rough thing. And during this time, there's going to be seals that are going to be opened. And they're trying to figure out who is able to open these seals to begin this end times plan. And Jesus opens the seal, the first seal, and then opens the scroll. And then the seals are one by one open. And these seals are releasing different things upon the earth, different troubles, different tribulations, such as the Antichrist is allowed to begin to build authority. This is a human being that will rise in power during this time. War is unleashed on the earth. Famine is unleashed. Death, people are killed for their faith. Disasters, and then there's a time of silence when we get ready for the next seal. But during this time, there's 144,000 Jewish people, 12,000 from every tribe that turned to Jesus because Jesus was Jewish. And the plan of the Old Testament and even into the church is about God's working in his chosen people, the Jewish people, the Israelites. And then open, and we talked about the very first week of the series. Then through Jesus, kind of, it was open to everybody. We were grafted in as non-Jewish people. We were allowed in to be a part of this program that God was working on. But we're gone now, and so now it's coming back to the what's happening with Israel. So 144,000 people follow Jesus, and they go around during this time telling people, turn to Jesus. Eventually, as their line fades away, they are all martyred. They are killed for their faith. And then after these seals, there's 7 trumpets that are sounded, that are blared, they're tooted. They tooted. And so it unleashes hail and fire. A mountain is thrown into the ocean. Stars are thrown into the water. Sun, moon, and stars dim. There are 3 woes. Locusts are unleashed. That are these painful things that you can't die. They hurt so bad you wish you could die, but you can't. And then there's a third of the world is killed. And then there's a third woe, which unleashes what are called the bowls. And then during this halfway at this woe, we begin what is the second half of the Great Tribulation, which is 3.5 years. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5 because I am awesome. And I can do that math. And so 3.5 years in begins what is called the Great Tribulation, because it's going to get really bad. And this Antichrist that rose to power now is going to have this treaty that he had made with Israel to promise peace to them. He's breaking this treaty, and he basically becomes the world dictator, the world ruler. And he's got a second in command that is called the false prophet. And this person is basically pointing everybody to the Antichrist and kind of helping him out do his thing. And then also during this time, there's these 2 witnesses that are unable to be killed, that are telling people about Jesus. And during this time, they're unable to be killed. We don't know how that works exactly, but they are doing that. And then around this time, the 144,000 people are being killed. And then we get to the bowl judgment. So things are getting worse. The Antichrist has broken this treaty, and the bowls are released. They're the third round, if you will, of punishments, and they're painful sores on everyone. The ocean is turned to blood, so there's nothing to, everything in the ocean is killed. The water, all the waters, the freshwater sources are turned to blood. There's nothing healthy to drink. The sun is so intense, you walk outside, you get an instant sunburn with boils and scarring. And then there's darkness, and then the Euphrates is dried up, which was a river that is the northern part of the land of Israel, allowing these armies to march in who are kind of tired of the Antichrist and his rule, his ultimate empire. And they start to gather together for this battle at a place called the Plain of Megiddo, for a battle that is called Armageddon. And it's not just a battle, it's more like a series of battles. So they're gathering together near the end of this time. And at the end of the time, they're gathering for this battle to fight against the Antichrist. And then right near the end, these 2 witnesses are finally killed. And the Antichrist is celebrating, look, we have won. Oh, also during this time, the Antichrist and the false prophet are requiring everyone to worship him. If you don't worship the Antichrist, you die. And if you do choose to worship him, you are then saying, okay, yes, I agree to worship you. They're like, fine, here's your card. They give you the mark of the beast so that you can carry on transport and economics and all that kind of thing. You can do commercial, what do you call it? Like buying and selling. And so just to be clear, as we talked about that week, this isn't something that somebody's going to sneak in on you. You're like, yes, I want to obey the Antichrist. I want to follow his leadership. I want to worship him. Can I have my mark? Yes, you may. It's not a secret thing. So then at these two witnesses are finally killed. The Antichrist, the false prophet, they're celebrating. We won. Everybody sees that. They left their bodies on the street to display how amazing they are. And then in 3.5 days, these two witnesses, whatever they are, rise up in front of everyone. And they meet Jesus in the air, and that's the oh crap moment, because then Jesus returns from heaven with his armies to the earth in one spectacular final battle. In this final battle, all the armies that had gathered together to fight the Antichrist in this battle of Armageddon turn, and they're like, okay, well, let's get Jesus instead. So they all turn to fight against God, to Jesus and his army, and at that point, Jesus wins. The battle is over. And at this moment, the Antichrist and false prophet, they are judged. They're still alive, and they are thrown alive into the lake of fire, where they will be burning in eternal torment. And so they're thrown into that. And then also during this time, Satan, who was released and kind of given full authority on the earth during the Great Tribulation, he was kind of locked out of heaven. Satan is then bound for 1,000 years. He is locked into prison and is unable to deceive people on his own. However, human beings that make it into what's called the millennium, we'll get there in a second, those human beings still have a sin nature, the ones that are alive that survive the tribulation. So that's what happens here. Then we get ready for this millennium kingdom, this 1,000 literal year reign of Jesus on the throne. And there are different groups of people that are allowed to enter into this time. First of all, it's all the tribulation survivors that are people that have survived, that follow Jesus, that have survived the tribulation, most likely nearer the end that they made that decision. They are allowed to enter the millennium. Then there's tribulation martyrs. There's people that were killed, 144,000, and others that were killed during this time. They are risen. They rise from the dead. So the tribulation survivors are just humans going in. The other ones rise from the dead, are given supernatural bodies, and are entering the millennium. Then Israel is allowed to enter the millennium. Those throughout history that have followed, that have been obedient to God, and as Romans talks about, oh yeah, you're with me. He believed God and it was credited to him as righteousness. So they in some way, through the blood of Jesus, were able to enter into the millennium. And then the church, us, those that are following Jesus, are also now coming down to the earth, where there is a literal 1,000-year reign on this earth, where Jesus is sitting on the throne of David that was promised throughout history, and we don't have time to get into that. We talked about it last Sunday. You talked about it a lot in your prime groups this past week. But there is a physical throne, a physical temple. Jesus is sitting there. All of the rest of the world is worshiping him. It's a time of peace and prosperity. The lion will lie down with the lamb, but it's not quite perfect. It's good. It's fulfilling promises that God made to Israel back in past, specifically to Abraham, the idea of you will have a people, you will have a place, and you will have a promise where your descendants will bless the world forever. And so that is happening. But again, throughout this 1,000-year period, realize we're only 2,000 years after Jesus right now. Around this 1,000-year period, the growth of the sin nature of those people that are born, because people will still die, it's not quite perfect. There's still a sin curse on the earth. There is still death. There is still some things that are just not quite right during that 1,000-year period. And so that's where we left off last week. So these were promises that were fulfilled, and they were literally fulfilled in this millennium. And that's why the millennium took place in a literal 1,000 years. And so then that brings us to this end, the end of this 1,000 years. And so what happens at the end of the 1,000 years is we have next, Satan is now released. He's released from his prison. He is, whoa, back up. Oh, go forward. Now wait, there you go. All right, Satan was released from his 1,000-year prison, and it says that at this point he deceived many in the world to fight Jesus. So the people that at this point over these 1,000 years that were not followers of Jesus, he deceives them and says, let's rise up and do this. We can do it this time. And again, like, come on, Satan, what you got? Like, what? So he raises up this kind of army in this last moment. We don't know how long this is taking place. We don't know the length of this time, which is what how long means. And so as they gather, there isn't really a battle because all of the armies that are anti-Christ, against Jesus, not anti-Christ, but that are against Jesus, they're all destroyed by a fire from heaven, just like that. There's no actual battle. And so then Satan is judged. So he loses his final battle. He had his last chance, and he is finally judged, and he is thrown into the lake of fire. And the lake of fire, as we'll get to in a moment, is more specifically, is a constant, eternal torment. And I'm going to say this a lot, and you'll be like, why does he keep saying that? Because there is a very clear opinion in the world that, well, if you follow Jesus, you go to heaven. If you don't follow Jesus, well, it just kind of ends and it's okay. Actually, no. There is, for those that have not chosen to follow Jesus, there is an eternal torment in the lake of fire, which we'll talk about in a second, which is also known as hell. And there is this constant eternal torment. And so Satan is thrown into that lake of fire for that torment, and he is there suffering for all of eternity. And if you see here the black line, which we'll get to in a second, again more specifically, but that is eternal. The lake of fire continues on. And then we have now we get to what is called the Great White Throne Judgment. This and the Bema Seat, these two, a lot of times people bring them together and mistake the difference between the two. Again, the Bema Seat was a word, and we talked about this in our prime group, that a Greek person, because people spoke Greek at the time, a Jewish person, anyone living at the time that this was written, if you said Bema Seat, right away they'd be like, oh, the games, the Olympics. Because that's the seat where the judge sits and gives the rewards, the crowns to the people that deserve them. And so we kind of, people, over history, we've mistaken and put these two together with a Great White Throne Judgment. This is just the opposite, basically. I mean, take everything that the Bema Seat of judgment is, and again, we use the word judgment as a negative way. Judgment didn't always mean something negative. It was just, I am deciding something. And he is deciding, Jesus is deciding what rewards people get at the Bema Seat. And the Great White Throne Judgment, this is for non-Christ followers throughout history. It says all the dead are raised. All the people that have chosen not to follow Jesus throughout history are raised. And they come before this king who is on this throne, who is judging the people. And these are people whose names were not found in the Lamb's Book of Life. You might have heard that phrase about the Lamb's Book of Life. As a follower of Jesus, your name is written in what is called the Lamb's Book of Life. You have chosen to follow Jesus, so now you are in. You are in this. But the people that were not, they are brought before this throne. And now this, if you wanted to say the story we talked about in youth group back in the day, the video of your life, back when I was growing up, would be the film strip. Beep of your life. Beep. That's me, because when it would beep, you have to turn the film. If you don't know what that is, you just missed it, man. Because in school, did you want to be the turner? Did you ever have that? Like, can I be the turner with the beep? You got to turn it. Anyway, so now in the Instagram post, whatever, of your life, this is where people are punished, and it seems that there'll be more severe punishment for those people that do worse things, but it really doesn't matter because it's all awful. So it's just an awful time of punishment, and it's in constant eternal torment in the lake of fire. And again, I'm not just being like, oh, you're a fire and brimstone preacher. Like, yeah, that's me. But no, it's not that we're adding, like, this is the words of the Bible, that they will be a constant eternal torment forever. And so that is the Great White Throne Judgment. And that is those people that at this point, when you get to the Great White Throne, all that's left, you've got two groups of people. Those that are in the lake of fire and those that will continue to eternity, which we'll get to in just a moment. So the lake of fire, that is now, technically, we know that the lake of fire at least started here because the Antichrist and false prophet were thrown into it. Jesus actually referred, during the time of the Gospels, 2,000 years earlier, about the lake of fire that was prepared for the devil and his angels. So it's been around, but now it's kind of relevant to where we are, so that's why it's there. Okay, so and as I said from the beginning of this series, like, this is how I see it. This is my kind of understanding and studying of it. Some things we definitely know are pretty clear. Some things we're not so sure about. Some things kind of make sense this way. So if you want to argue or fight me about it, you fine, okay. But some things are very important, and frankly, eternity is very important. So anyway, the lake of fire, it's constant eternal torment. If you haven't heard that already, it is continuous. How does that work? It says it's a place of constant fire and also total darkness. I don't know. It says that people, that they're just, it's a constant torment, but you don't die. You're being tormented and burning, but you don't die. Like, I don't get how all that works. This is also known as the second death. The Bible talks about the idea of there's death when we die. You know, if this building collapses and we die, that's the first death. But then those that have followers of Jesus will get to spend eternity with Jesus. But those that are not will die again. They will be sent to eternity in the lake of fire, also known as hell. And we did a whole series, which I actually posted on our Facebook page this past week, at our Burn series. So you go to mc3church.org/burn. You can learn. We spent 4 weeks talking about hell and what does that look like, and the details and the nuances of that. So that's the lake of fire on for eternity. And then we get to the other group of people that their names are in the Lamb's Book of Life. Those people that have chosen to follow Jesus, they are sent. They go to the new heavens and new earth. And what does that mean? Now, remember we talked about the millennium. It wasn't quite perfect. There's still that curse. There were still some issues. And so there's a new heavens and new earth where God says, I'm getting rid of this sin-cursed earth, and we're starting new. Basically, we're starting as in Garden of Eden kind of thing. And in your prime groups, we're really going to chew on that. I'm going to fly through them in a moment. But in your prime groups, you have a chance to look at this and process this week, so don't miss it. But the old heavens and earth are destroyed by fire. And even just a couple of weeks ago, someone said, I thought God said he wouldn't destroy the earth anymore. I thought that's what Noah was all about. But if you read Genesis 9:1-1, it says very clearly that God promised with the rainbow to never destroy the earth by a flood again. So there was no promise to never destroy the earth, just never by a flood. And so this was destroyed by fire, just to clarify that nuance there. This is for all Christ followers throughout eternity. Throughout eternity. So, beginning Seth, Adam, I don't know how it all works out. It's not my job to sort out that. But beginning then all the way through now, through eternity, through the tribulation, those people through the millennium that have chosen to follow Jesus, their names are in the book of life, and they are in there. And in this new heavens and new earth, the old one is done. We're starting all new. It is eternal perfection and beauty, serving in the presence of Jesus. And people are like, aren't people going to get tired of worshiping Jesus? I don't know. I really enjoyed this morning. I could have sung some more songs. And serving Jesus, like I think, it's going to be the perfection of all the things that we're supposed to be now. And it's going to be wonderful. And there's going to be all these things that was in the curse back in Genesis 3. And again, this is what we're going to talk about in your prime groups, but I'm just going to quickly summarize them. But the whole point of this new heavens and new earth is that way back here, somewhere, no feedback, probably right around here. No, I don't know. It's not the scale. Okay, so right around here when Adam and Eve chose to sin and ate the fruit that they weren't allowed to eat, that began this curse of sin on all of humanity. And Jesus ultimately took that curse upon himself. He took the punishment for our sin. But this new heavens and new earth is a reversal of that. And so just quickly here, go to the next slide there and just kind of follow me. The curse was reversed. First of all, the curse in Genesis 3:17. Click it one more time there. In Genesis 3:17, it talks about how the entire earth, it says, cursed is the ground because of you, Adam and Eve, because of your sin, because of your disobedience. And then in Revelation 22:3, it talks about this new heavens and new earth. There is no curse. The curse is removed. The curse is gone. The next thing that happened in this curse in Genesis 3:16, there was this thing that was given to women. Next slide, or next click. Pain. That you will have pain in childbirth. There will be pain, and life is pain. We already talked about that. And Genesis 3:16 talks about this pain that is part of the curse, that now things are hard, things hurt. And in Revelation 21, it says there will be no more pain. It says he will wipe every tear from their eyes. There'll be no more death or sorrow or crying or pain. All these things will be gone forever. And then the next curse there was work. God said to Adam, because of your sin, you now have to work. You can't sit around on your butt and play video games, Adam. You have to do it. You have to have a job. You have to work. You have to get, because it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to work for the food, and it's going to produce thorns and thistles. The ground is going to hurt. It's not going to obey. Sometimes there'll be droughts. Sometimes the ground will be dirt. Sometimes there'll be rabbits that eat your crops. It's not going to be good. You're going to have to work for it. And then in Revelation 22, it talks about in the new heavens, new earth, there's the tree that drops amazing fruit, the tree of life, which, by the way, was the tree in the garden from the beginning. If you remember, there's a tree of life there. That this tree will drop fruit every month. Like, you don't have to do anything. It's like, just stand out waiting for your fruit. So there's no more work required. And then, of course, we know this is the big one, death. In the curse, God said to Adam, because of this, you are going to return to the earth from which you came. You are going to die, Adam. Up until that moment of sin entering the world in Genesis 3, there was no death, but now Adam is going to die. But in Revelation 21:4, again, we already said, there will be no more death. Death is gone. And then what are we on? Fifth thing is separation from God. If you remember the story, they were in this garden, and it was an amazing garden. And of course, they ate the fruit. They disobeyed God. God found them and said, what's the deal? Okay, we sinned. It was a snake. It was a woman. Okay, it was you. You were there with her the whole time. Shut up, Adam. Just take it like a man. And so then there was this moment where they were sent out of the garden. And there was a sword placed at the entrance so that people could not return. And so there was a disconnect, a separation from God and his people. And that separation was always sin. And sin has kept us from God. And then Jesus stepped in and said, I'm going to bridge that gap. He was the one that gave us that connection. But even still right now, Jesus bridged the gap for us, and we choose to follow him. We choose to believe, and we've got Jesus, but we're not with God for eternity yet. And in Revelation 21:3 and 22:3, it talks about how Jesus will be among them. He will be with his people. And so this new heavens and new earth is a reversal of the curse. It's fixing all the things that we and our great whatever parents, Adam and Eve, screwed up, which, by the way, we kind of screw up a little bit ourselves. And so that is eternity. And that's what we have to look forward to. So the point is, we can anticipate the end. Because God has won. Like, this is for real. This is awful. But this is amazing. And this is guaranteed if we're a follower of Jesus, if you're a follower of Jesus. So, as we've wrapped up every week with this series, what does the end mean for the now? Like, oh, this is great. Like, that's exciting. Okay, these are all neat things. Wow, I have a chart now. I can go and show everybody all the things that I think I knew. But it's not about being stuck here. It's about, what does this mean for us? What does this mean for us living today? What does our heart have to do with this? And I want to just tie to that idea of preparing for a trip. And maybe you like going to gas station. Maybe you're like, I love the smell. I kind of do. And maybe you're like, if I get enough rewards points, if I get 7,000 gallons of gas, I can get and maybe that's your thing. But it's just annoying to me. It's like this necessary thing that you have to go through. And like I said, in the video, I had never had a truck before. That's a lot of gas. That's a lot of money. But we do those things. We endure hard things now because of something that is amazing in front of us. If I didn't want to go on the journey, I wouldn't have gotten the gas. And so I want to look at that, where we are right now, in the midst of the hard, in the midst of the messy, in the midst of the junk. There's some things that I want us to walk away with. The first of all is that suffering will end. So endure collectively. You are not alone. We can look forward to a time when this is going to end, but I want you to understand that you might feel like you're alone in this, but you're not. You're not alone. We're all suffering through this together. It's all hard. And again, I'm not talking COVID, I'm talking life. And so in Romans chapter 8, and I'm just going to read the highlights here because of time, but Paul's talking to the church in Rome. He says, we believers also groan, even though we have the Holy Spirit, we're looking forward as a foretaste of future glory. because we long for our bodies to be released from sin and suffering. We wait with eager hope for the day when God will give us our full rights as adopted children. We're looking forward to that day, but right now we're groaning. It hurts. It's hard. We're in this together. And he goes on to say in the next slide there, did I skip one? Yeah, I did. We must have gone backwards. Anyway, he talks about how all of creation is groaning. The land is looking forward to the day when God restores things. And so we are all in this together. And as we look forward to eternity, like, let's come around each other. Let's come alongside of each other and say, look, this is hard for you. It's hard for me. We're in this together. Let's endure together. Let's endure collectively, saying, okay, you know what? I know this is tough, but we have Jesus to look forward to. I know this is hard, but eternity is going to be amazing. Like, let's come alongside of each other and endure together. Let's be in this as a whole and not pulling apart. So suffering will end, so endure collectively. The second thing is that oppression will end, so obey willingly. And we kind of touched on this a little bit last week in Prime Groups. I know this idea of like, why? Like, can't I get a break? Why do things never go my way? Why do those people always do well and they don't care about God, and I'm over here following God and it sucks? And this idea of just the injustice in our world, this idea of things just aren't being right, we can look forward to the fact that it will end. And as hard as this sounds, there will be a day that they will get theirs. And as we talked about in Prime Groups, they also might be someone that God is going to completely turn their life around. But oppression will end. And so we're just to obey willingly. God, I'm going to follow you. I'm going to do your thing. I'm going to obey you and let you deal with the consequences. In Philippians chapter 3, Paul writes this to the church in Philippi. He goes on and he says, I told you about the problems we're going. There are many whose conduct shows they're really enemies of the cross of Christ. They're headed for destruction. Their God is their appetite. They brag about shameful things, and they think only about life on this earth. He says, yes, there are people that are thriving, that are doing well, and they're putting you under their thumb, and you have to deal with their obnoxiousness, and you have to deal with their issues, and you have to put up with them putting you down. He says that this is all they get, but our citizenship, what we have to look forward to is heaven. And so we don't have to worry about this. We're waiting for Jesus to return as our Savior. He's going to take our weak mortal bodies and change them into glorious bodies like his own, using the same power with which he will bring everything under his control. We can just sit back and say, God, you've got this. And my responsibility isn't to make sure that I fix it. My responsibility isn't to make sure that they get it. My responsibility is to obey God, to obey Jesus, and obey willingly, saying, okay, God, I'm following your plan because I know that you have the end in mind. Because I know that eventually you're going to win. Eventually it's going to be heavens and earth or lake of fire. And so for now, I'm going to trust that this moment, even though I want to take matters into my own hands, even though I want to kind of do this thing, at this moment, I'm going to submit to you. And in Romans chapter 12, Paul talks about, it says, don't get revenge. That's God's job. Don't repay evil for evil. Just instead, show love for your enemies. It's God's job to take vengeance, to deal with that. So for us, our job is to obey willingly. God, this is awful. I don't like what's happening. I don't like what they're doing to me, but I'm going to obey you and trust that you will bring everything under your control by that power. The third thing is that death will end. Death will end. Like, it's going to. There will be no more death. There will be no more tears. There will be no more pain. There will be no more hurt. So worship gratefully. Because I think sometimes, we follow Jesus. You choose to follow Jesus. We're like, yay, this is great. I'm going to heaven. And that's good. But sometimes we miss what it cost. And the reason we have life eternal is because of what Jesus did on the cross for us. And in 1 Corinthians 15:21, and why is that wrapping over? Okay. 1 Corinthians 15:21 talks about death came into the world through a man, through Adam. And then life came through Jesus. And then after that, the end will come. Second paragraph there, when he will turn the kingdom over to God the Father, having destroyed every ruler and authority, for Christ must reign until he humbles all enemies beneath his feet. And the last enemy to be destroyed is death. And so it was Jesus' death that has given us life. And so sometimes maybe, and you're going to have a chance to get in your prime groups to, what does that look like? How can we do that? Because sometimes we show up and we go through the motions, we do the it's Sunday morning thing, and perhaps we've missed that I'm worshiping Jesus because of what he has done for me. And it wasn't just because I got an A on my test, or I got that promotion, or my team, Alabama, won. Alabama won, see, I said it eventually. Alabama won. Penn State maybe didn't, barely. But, it's not about those little things. We have something to worship because Jesus gave his life for us, and we can look forward to the new heavens and new earth. We can endure now because of what he has done. And so let that affect our worship. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for what you have done for me. That we're not hoping, when we have this hope, and this hope isn't like a guess, like I hope it works out. This is hope that is certain, that we know that in the end, we will spend eternity with Jesus if we have chosen to follow him. So, suffering will end, so endure collectively. Oppression will end, so obey willingly. Death will end, so worship gratefully. And finally, everything will end, so come desperately. And if you are here and you've chosen to follow Jesus, great. But if you haven't made the decision to follow Jesus, don't miss this. This is for real. Come to Jesus desperately. In Revelation 22:17, there's one more phrase that Jesus utters at the end of the Bible, but it says, the Spirit and the bride say, come. And let the one who hears say, come. Let the one who is thirsty come. Let the one who wishes to take the free gift of the water of life. And are you tired? Is life hard? Are you hoping for something more? Because it's found in Jesus, and Jesus says, come. It doesn't matter where you are, just come. And this idea of coming desperately, like you've got nothing to offer Jesus. None of us do. Jesus has offered for us, and we can take the free gift of the water of life. And so that's my encouragement to you. If you haven't chosen to follow Jesus, don't miss the chance. And all it is simply believing that Jesus died on the cross. He took your sin and gave you his perfection. He took the sin, the punishment that you deserve, and gave you his perfection so that you could have life. And simply believing that, not doing more, not being gooder, but simply believing is what it takes. And that gap we talked about, that separation from God that started back with Adam and Eve, Jesus bridged that gap. And through Jesus, we now can have a relationship. We can have a hope for eternity with God. And by the way, if sinners can't be in God's presence, it is a physical impossibility. It's like an oil and water thing. Anything that is sinful in God's presence will be destroyed. So that is why Jesus took the punishment for us. And if you haven't made that decision, I say the same thing. Come. Take advantage of the free gift. So, what does the end mean for now? It means the suffering is going to end. So let's endure collectively. Let's get through this together. Oppression will end. So just obey God and trust that he has the end in his hands. Death is going to end. So let's let it affect our worship. Thank you, Jesus, that you've given us your life. And everything will end. So come desperately. If you need Jesus, you don't need to polish up or clean up. You come as you are to him. We can anticipate the end because God has won. We have something to look forward to. It might stink now. It might get worse, but it's going to definitely get better. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much for giving us your son, Jesus, and for taking the punishment that we deserve, allowing us to have this hope for eternity. Thank you for fixing the things that we as humans have messed up and giving us that time where everything will be restored, where there'll be no more sin, there'll be no more sickness, no more death, no more pain, no more oppression, no more struggles, but we will be together with you. And I pray if there's anyone in this room, God, that has not made that decision, that you would just Stir their heart, grab them deep within, and help them to see and to recognize the need that we all have for you. And I just pray for all of us here that we would look forward to the end, that we would endure the hard things now, knowing that there is something amazing that is coming down the road that is ahead of us on this path. Thank you for providing that for us. In Jesus' name, amen. That is the end. Have a good afternoon. Next week, change your clocks. New series, Truth, Justice, and the American Way, and MC3 Eats. The sign-up sheet is out there for that. See you guys.